welcome into the PHNX Cardinals podcast presented to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook app, official betting sports partner of the National Football League. I'm Johnny Venerable, one day removed from Bo Brock storming off the set, and thankfully we have an adult in the room now with Damien Anderson, the pride of Northwestern, joining the show. And Damien, I'm not sure if you saw the clip from yesterday, but I may or may not have put Jalen Thompson in a hypothetical trade for Roquan Smith, and Bo didn't like you. Actually, no one did, but I'm hoping that you're here now to even things out for us.
I'm gonna go with Johnny. I see where you're coming from, and
here it goes. Here it goes.
No. There's really no but for a talent like Roquan. You have Buda Baker. You know that you got some position versatility with Simmons. And you lose Chandler Jones, it does make some sense, right?
Thank you.
I mean,
you don't have to do that to him, Dan.
But I get both sides of the coin, right? Jalen Thompson's a super young, talented guy. I mean, is it you're coming at a time where you're going to have to pay? We talked about this contractual year for a lot of people, right? So the Cardinals have to pick their poison in terms of who they want to keep. That's how I look at it. So it would make sense.
Don't make Johnny feel better about that shit trade where he tried to send also Rondale Moore. Moore was also in the deal that Johnny proposed. He was just giving away the farm.
I would say maybe Thompson in like a third for him.
They weren't even entertaining that yet.
I said Zaven and Josh Jones, and then we get into some draft picks. But
you're taking a left tackle, premium position, and a linebacker.
A backup. You're taking two starters.
Well,
That's why I stormed off, but cooler heads prevailed. We're here today. We've made up.
Notice he didn't mention Moore when he said.
I know.
He didn't mention because that would have been maybe it's
don't let the details get in the way of making your point here, Johnny. I mean, you tried to pull one over our good friend.
Listen, I took it on the chin yesterday. I'm ready to move on. I'm here to talk, Bo, with you and D about people who are going to play for the Arizona Cardinals this season, and most notably Friday night in the Arizona Cardinals preseason debut against the Cincinnati Bengals. And Bo, we talked about it yesterday. The depth chart is out, and there are some guys I think that have something to prove on Friday nights.
Yeah, they absolutely do have a lot to prove, but as far as the first team guys, you're not going to see much of them, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You're going to see three guys who are projected as starters on the defensive side that are going to get reps in their second-year guys, and Zaven Collins and Marco Wilson, and then a guy who's trying to get back at full strength, and Dennis Gardeck. Outside of that, you're going to see a bunch of guys vying for jobs playing for the Cardinals on Friday night, DA.
Yeah, and but that's what preseason's about. You talked about Marco Wilson. You talked about Zaven Collins. You want to see, especially from Zaven, that year one to year two, that big step where we won't see him a bunch of plays, but I guarantee you, Bo, Johnny, if it goes wrong, Zaven's going to have an extended period out there with that team, just getting that experience that Vance Joseph had talked about, that something that you can't replicate unless you go through. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see Zaven go. He's looked great in some of the videos that you guys have posted, obviously all throughout camp. He looks the part, right? He looks everything that you want. He's a created Madden player. However, we got to see it come through on these preseason games leading up into the season.
Yeah, it's interesting, Johnny. Just one more point about Zaven. When you look at Roquan Smith and just his size, it's not even close. Like Zaven Collins is a specimen compared to Roquan Smith is a guy that played at Georgia. He's got the background. He's got the resume. He's got the all pros. He's played at the NFL level at a high level. Zaven Collins is 6'5", and he's just a donut short of 260. At least that's what he was drafted at. Significantly bigger than Roquan Smith. You've seen the athleticism on full display, as Damien pointed out. Like, if he could just put it together, like, you have a guy that could get to those heights already on your roster. It's just is it gonna click at some point? And I'm fascinated to see if maybe Zaven even plays more than he did his rookie year in the preseason, because we saw him play some early snaps last preseason and then kind of get the starters luxury to go see the bench. Is he, because Vance Joseph said he just needs to play? Are they going to play him heavily this preseason?
Well, he started the red and white scrimmage last year and looked damn good in 2021, and that's where I thought this was heading. I thought this was heading toward, you've got a rookie. You remember everything Steve Keim said, he's not here to redshirt, and then that went up in flames, right? And so I don't think we can take their word on anything. I have to watch this with my eyes, and if he's out there for 2 quarters and he looks great, I think we're trending up. But I'm with both of you gentlemen. Like, I asked Twitter before the show started, who's under more pressure, Marco Wilson or Zaven Collins? And universally, people said because of his draft status, because of his no-show as a rookie, it's the linebacker. Marco Wilson, to me, I don't want to direct the conversation there, but I also think it's interesting. Elowan5 in the chat says, who else is crossing their fingers for a Marcus Peters, Lattimore, Greedy Williams trade? That's where the fans' mindset is right now. And I think Marco Wilson, fair enough, I think gets a little bit of a pass from fans. He played last year. He was out there when the team was humming. He was starting D'ing up Odell Beckham Jr. in Cleveland in that first matchup against Baker Mayfield. Like, he has proven a lot. He hasn't had a great training camp. By and large, like Cliff Kingsbury, for whatever reason, every opportunity he gets, he challenges Marco Wilson. And I do think he's going to produce, but you also need 3 to 4 to 5 cornerbacks. Whereas Zaven Collins, I think right now, co-starting with Nick Vigil, I mean, if he has 3 or 4 stretches of just not quality play, how soon are we going to see guys like Tanner Vallejo crack this lineup who's been advanced Joseph Darling? And you do not get ample opportunities to crack the linebacking core for Vance Joseph. It's literally you go out there, you show what you can do, a la Simmons and Zaven Collins as rookies, and if you don't produce, you get yanked. Whereas, like, there are going to be plenty of like Marco Wilson is going to play a ton of snaps this year. Whether or not he looks great in camp right now, like they need other options. But in today's NFL DA, when you've got 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, like, you need a ton of corners. I have legitimate concerns that when the season begins and the Cardinals have to go against these prolific offenses, and if Zaven doesn't keep up, then we could be in some problems, and we could have some serious issues as it relates to what this unit looks like down the stretch. But if he plays well, it fixes everything. I can tell you right now, he better look good Friday night against backups, second year in the system. I need to see pop plays, tackles behind the line of scrimmage, pressures. He can't be a no-show when a lot of his peers are starting with him on the defensive side.
No, and I agree, Johnny. But I mean, you also don't want to have these super expectations that, he's Troy Polamalu diving over the line of scrimmage, sacking the quarterback. You don't necessarily need that, but you do want to identify some traits. You want to identify anticipation, being physical, aggressive, identifying sets, anticipating what they're going to run, right, in certain sets, and taking command of that defense, because we know that they have speakers, but there's also a quarterback of that defense, and most notably, it's either the safety or the middle linebacker. And Zaven has to take that next step. And as I said, in the Vance Joseph system, which seems a bit complicated for linebackers coming in to play that position, just of how they've struggled over the years in terms of personnel, it's, it was a paralysis by analysis. But once he gets more comfortable, we've seen good dialogue come out from the coaching staff about Zaven. He seems more confident. I think that you watch him grow. You don't necessarily need, 15-star plays. You just need to see him progressing, doing his job, taking on double teams, being in the right place at the right time.
To look like he knows what he's doing.
Absolutely,
he can't be lost out there. He can't be lost, Bo Brock, in containment. He can't look slow, which I don't think is a problem for him. But mentally, he was slow last year because he didn't know what he was doing, and that supersedes trades for Vance Joseph. Like, you can be the most athletic. I hear people in the chat saying Jordan Hicks, was oftentimes exposed at the line of scrimmage, but he is his football IQ is so immense, Bo Brock, that it superseded everything.
Yeah, it did. And you just want actually Zaven to put himself in and not get, overwhelmed by, between the ears. You just want him to go out there and react, because there were so many plays that you watch back on film where Zaven Collins was thinking too much and was immediately, there was a hat on a hat from an offensive lineman just completely taking him out of a play. Like, he was a non-factor, and you hope that he's kind of got that out of his system. He said that the game has slowed down for him this season, and you hear that a lot from guys going from the rookie year to their second year. So, Zaven Collins, you hope that he makes a big jump, because it's going to be essential for this defense to not take a gigantic step back after a solid 2021. And Marco Wilson's a big part of that too. And, to your Twitter question, as far as who's got the most pressure, I know Marco has probably more pressure than a lot of 4th-round rookies or second-year guys have. But Zaven Collins, no doubt about it. Like, he suffered the injury, he had the shoulder injury against the Browns, but he also had problems in staying in drills and practice, and that's just mental reps. And Marco didn't have that issue. When he was healthy, he was in there. And Zaven, you can't say the same for him. He's the 16th overall pick, not a fourth rounder that you traded for. But Marco Wilson, to kind of come to his defense, because I see him taking some shots in the chat, and statistically, it wasn't pretty. It was about the worst you can get. But keep in mind, it was still better in Byron Murphy's first year. Byron Murphy made a pretty decent jump in his year 2 after kind of trial by fire year 1. Same thing has got to be expected from Marco Wilson, because the skill set's there. Now you don't even think about it if he's a fourth-round pick. The skill set. That he's got enough snaps under his belt to where he should take a step forward. And now we'll see if, he can be complemented. Like, this team still needs to complement the cornerbacks on this roster with help.
Yeah. Well, and I think cornerback is one of the hardest positions in the NFL to play, especially as a rookie. Not everybody can walk in the NFL and be A.J. Terrell of the Atlanta Falcons, right? And then in turn, I don't know how you feel about this, like universally, two of the most easily translated positions, and it's not easy to play linebacker and running back at the NFL level, but like it used to be like plug and play. Guy was a stud linebacker in college. He comes in, he has 100 tackles in the NFL, and he's trending upward. And for Zaven Collins to be able to kind of take the bull by the horns here, I don't have a ton of patience for this season. And I'm going to be very uneasy, because with Isaiah Simmons, I think there was a lot of things working in his favor as it related to maybe his slow development. He didn't play 3-down linebacker at Clemson. We've talked about that ad nauseum. The pandemic, he didn't have an off season. The Cardinals didn't get their hands on him for like 6 months after they met with him at the combine. And then, Vance Joseph, everybody's trying to figure out what to do with him. It's like literally Zaven, they said, we're drafting you to be an inside linebacker. You played linebacker at Tulsa. He sits his rookie year like it's go time now. Like we need to see, you don't have to be a Pro Bowler this year, but like we need to be able to have definitive answers, at the end of the year as to what Zaven Collins is. And if we still have questions, I mean, it's a miss of a pick, in my opinion.
It is a miss of a pick after year 2, Johnny.
Yeah.
He hasn't blossomed into what you've expect as Bo said, a 16th overall pick. That being said, you have to look at the program in which he came from. Johnny, Tulsa, like maybe that transition, he wasn't prepared in terms of the football nomenclature, verbiage, or whatever. So he did encounter that paralysis by analysis, right? Like they're throwing all this information at him, and you got to know where the Mike and Sam, the Sam and Will line up at. So you got to know your position, and you got to know everybody else's. And I don't want to make excuses, but I've seen it happen. When I played, where you have guys that physically they have every skill and trait that you want in terms of position. However, just that transition, that learning curve is somewhat difficult for guys, because the coach is such in demand of trying, wanting them to understand it and understand the concept rather than just going out there and playing. And I think that may be a part of it too, guys. Like, how much are the coaches taking, some of the responsibility for Zaven's development? I mean, you've picked these guys, right? The personnel department, and then you have these guys coming in. Wouldn't you do that research in the back half before you draft him? Like, hey, this is a super intelligent kid. We're going to get him.
Would think so.
He's going to be the quarterback of our defense. That's what you think in terms of middle linebacker. I mean, that's what Mike Singletary, what I grew up on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Billy Davis, the linebacking coach, Bo, for the Arizona Cardinals, has been under immense pressure. I would say if Zaven and to a lesser extent Isaiah do not pop this year, we both feel like Vance Joseph could be the sacrificial lamb at the end of the season, but I would think at the very least it would be Billy Davis. And fair or not to them, like the prospect gets ample time. You get at least 4 or 5 years, whereas the coaching staff, if you're not up to snuff here, like you get replaced. And I don't think we're clearly not there yet, but it's time. It's go time for Zaven. But as we transition here to some other key camp battles, as you will look ahead to Friday night, Bo Brock, what are some of the other position groups that maybe are a little bit under the radar as guys fight for a roster spot? I
don't think it's under a radar at all. Dennis Gardeck is getting a start as well. One of the guys, and he Cliff phrased it, a guy who's probably going to start for this team once the season begins, gives you a little glimpse of who could start opposite Marcus Golden if Golden's back. So Gardeck's going to get some reps, trying to get him back into that pass rush mindset. but you're going to watch those pass rushers all night. You should. And, speaking of Zaven and Isaiah, I mean, they made their way over to the pass rush group today during practice, and they were running drills. It was Zaven, it was Isaiah, and then the rest was Cameron Thomas, Majay Sanders, Dennis Gardeck, Devon Kennard, guys who can get after the passer. But those guys are entering that group. That's exciting to think about those guys. Everybody's wanted them to get those opportunities. And I think Vance Joseph has that in mind. He doesn't have a true dog opposite Marcus Golden. So he's just going to have this rotation. And I'm excited that those two athletes are going to be part of it. But also, to see Majay Sanders, Cameron Thomas kind of get their first taste of the NFL, getting after the passer come Friday night. That's something to watch closely, as well as Dennis Gardeck, who is so efficient. 7.5 sacks and less than 100 pass rush opportunities in 2020, Johnny. You hope he can kind of recapture that this season, because it's going to be necessary.
It does feel like, DA, that they're going to throw a bunch of shit at the wall opposite Marcus Golden and see what sticks. There's not a Chandler Jones replacement on the roster. I'm not breaking news here, but you're going to try to mix and match 3, 5, 6 sacks here and there from a group of about 4 guys, as Bo just mentioned, the 2 veterans and the 2 rookies. I don't mind that approach, but I do think we could get to a point where if there's not an immediate answer on the roster, they could have to look elsewhere.
Johnny, you need 8 to 10 sacks from that group that we talked about. And regardless of that rotation, that's what I'm excited about. Thomas and Sanders, how they've come to play, the competition that we've heard throughout camp. And we've heard that the freak from Louisville could play. He's got the bend, he's got everything that you've talked about. That you want in terms of a pass rusher. So I'm excited about that, but also the pressure that I know that we've identified these issues with cornerbacks, right? Having depth at the position and just being able to play. But Johnny, when you mentioned a little bit earlier talking about help, I think that they need help in terms of pressure. I think that's the cornerback and secondary's biggest best friend, right? So if it's Vance Joseph, does he have to get more creative blitzing Zaven, or is it blitzing Simmons, or even Buddha, right? We know that any of those combination of players can get home and you can manufacture pressure, but that's also going to create a hole in the back end, right? Defensively, right? So if we don't get home, we either pressure the quarterback right or left. So to me, it's those equations, just looking at those younger players and see how they play. But obviously, Bo, Johnny, the names that jump out, Zaven, the young, defensive ends, obviously Gardeck, see how he responds, but offensively too. You guys know I'm partial. You guys know where I'm going. I've been beating this drum all damn camp, with Keontae. I just want to see how well he play. Under the lights, right? It's a great opportunity. And the saying goes, right? Like, if you don't make this team, there's 31 other teams looking for you. And that's true. You got a lot of guys out there fighting for spots and they want to be seen. So I'm just anxious to see, after all this shit that, PHNX Cardinals fans, everyone across the valley has dealt with this offseason leading up to now. I'm just glad we get to watch a game, right? Like that's what I'm excited about.
Let me ask you guys, in kind of getting back, and I don't mean to come way back to our first talking point, but about Zaven Collins, about Marco Wilson, do you think they're pissed off that they are the only guys really playing that are going to play significant snaps during this season for the Cardinals? The fact that they, like the rest of their peers, their teammates are getting the night off. Do you think they feel kind of slighted that they didn't get the night off too, or do you think they understand that they have to earn it?
I think it's circumstantial, right? In both of this, it's player by player, right? Like, I feel as though that if Marco, would have had the 2 initial days at camp and did awesome, Cliff would have felt better about holding.
Yeah, he wouldn't be playing.
He wouldn't be playing, and I think that with Zaven, I just think that as Vance has continued to say, he needs that experience. So that's what they're giving him. And I don't think that it's going to, again, guys, if he goes out there and demonstrates that he knows where he's supposed to be and he's doing what he's supposed to do, and it doesn't even have to be any home run or signature plays, right? He just has to be where he's supposed to. I think that we'll see him out there in a couple, maybe even a quarter, right? Get a quarter in, get out, get sweaty, feel good about it, and then get him out. We'll see him maybe in game 2, and he won't play game 3. But
Sly in the chat, Damien says they need it. They need to play. Anybody who argues that Zaven Collins doesn't need live reps against competition, you are off your ass crazy. He didn't play at all last year. We did not see him. He was in the witness protection program. He needs ample snaps. My only question is, why isn't Isaiah Simmons out there in this new kind of hybrid role? That tells me they have immense confidence in Simmons. Bo, based on what you and I've seen at training camp, he's having his best camp. That's good. You want to feel good about something, I would say it's the development of Isaiah Simmons. But, I mean, Marco has been challenged by his head coach. Zaven has been challenged by his defensive coordinator. Go out and kick ass against a bunch of backups. Marco Wilson, once upon a time, was a top 50 prospect before he threw a shoe. That should show on Friday night. And then Zaven Collins is a big physical presence specimen that was a top 20 draft pick. Go out and show it. Because if you're pissed off about something, I tell this story all the time, gentlemen. I'll never forget the first preseason game Darrell Washington ever played. He played with the backups, and he just kicked everybody's ass. It was evident. You're watching the game. You saw 58.
Another speed.
He was faster than and everybody's like, oh, shit, you have to start this kid out of TCU. That's what I want from Zaven Collins. And that was Darrell Washington's rookie season. I'm all for letting the process play out, but, like, your eyes don't lie to you. Like, we can talk about all this stuff, and we've been to ample press conferences since the offseason begins and the coach speak. You love all that, right? Who's going to help this team win games this fall? It better be Zaven Collins, 25, and it better be Marco Wilson. I will flip the script. I'll go to the offensive side as well, Bo Brock. This receiving core is interesting because I don't know what they're going to do with Antoine Wesley. I know they want him to make the team. They want him to be on the roster if they don't have to put him on IR. Like, could Andy Isabella make this team? And if he has a strong enough preseason, like, could they flip him for something? We see Miami just lost 2 receivers this morning. I am back very much high on the fact that they could potentially flip Andy Isabella. I don't think they necessarily want him on the roster, but I think it's a good problem to have right now because he and Greg Dortch are going to get a ton of targets with Trace McSorely on Friday night. And I think Andy could be on a new team in like a week and a half. Am I crazy for thinking that?
What's the GIF like? Don't give me hope. Please don't give me hope. I mean, with Andy Isabella, I mean, the problem is, here's what I'll say. I think all 3 guys, Andy Isabella, Victor Bolden Jr., and Greg Scorch the Dortch, they're all going to be playing NFL football this year, right? They're all going to be on an NFL roster. They're going to be on the Arizona Cardinals final 53. I just think they have too similar of a profile. Maybe 2 into 3, right? And then you figure out, hopefully you don't have to cut somebody and you can actually get something in return, anything in return. You'll take that.
Well, I think Bolden and Dortch are similar, and that's what you want from Andy with those other 2. I mean, it's sad as it is. I think that you see the athleticism, the size, skill, right? And that's just because of Andy's super fast. You would anticipate him having that wiggle like the other 2 players have. You just haven't seen that yet in his development throughout his career.
I'm waiting for Andy to have a shitty day in camp. I mean, it would make things a lot easier, but he continues to just catch balls with the second team offense for touchdowns. I mean, he's catching long touchdowns. He's catching balls in the red zone.
What does he do, Bo?
Catches. I'm gonna catch hands from Andy Isabella if I keep on talking about that he catches balls like that. No, I mean, I think that he's gonna be a force this preseason, and he's gonna raise some eyebrows, and it might not just be from the Cardinals organization because I think they feel like who he is.
He's going to Patriots. Like, he is gonna be.
I do. DA, you joke about that. Like, I think there's legitimate concern from Steve Keim that if they let him go, he goes and flashes elsewhere. I think that's still very much.
And I really think it's going to be the Patriots. Like, I really feel
it just makes too much damn sense.
It does. It does.
Give us something.
That's where he would end up.
You can't get his over-under on a new team on DraftKings, gentlemen, but you can get a ton of other quality props as it relates to the Arizona Cardinals. You take Kyler Murray's over-under on passing touchdowns, 25.5. I will definitely be gambling on this preseason game come Friday, and it's going to be joyous as I lose money, no doubt. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code PHNX, make your first deposit, get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Hell, it's your first time logging in, get that $1,000, put it on the Arizona Cardinals. Sweat that out for 4 quarters as you watch Trace McSorely light up the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. That's promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's that time of year, guys. Time to start gambling on some football. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
When it's Johnny, it's basically like free money, and more free stuff you can get by just entering our Toast of the Month sweepstakes between us and Four Peaks, PHNX and Four Peaks. You can enter to win the Toast of the Month sweepstakes. Already one winner from last month. You could be this month's winner. All you have to do is go to gophnx.com, click on the link in the show notes as well, and you get yourself a $50 Four Peaks gift card. You can get a PHNX annual membership and PHNX shirt of your choice, like I've got on right here, the Rise Up Red Sea. Johnny's got one on. It's more geared towards hoops. You can pick out whatever you want. You got the pick of the litter. All you have to do is go to gophnx.com, enter the sweepstakes, Toast of the Month sweepstakes, and as well, celebrate. Go to Four Peaks and have yourself a great meal. Have some delicious beer. Must be 21 years or older. Enjoy responsibly. We continue on here at PHNX Cardinals. We're giving you all things Cards as they wrapped up today. Practice for the week. They'll kind of have a walkthrough tomorrow, travel to Cincinnati, probably get themselves some Skyline chili, and then they'll take on the Bengals, who, according to their beat writer, Ben Baby, they're not going to play any of their starters as well. So it's going to be, second, third, fourth string guys. We heard from Trace McSorely today, guys, and this was Trace's kind of his path to starting the Cardinals preseason game at quarterback.
Honestly, for me, it was a little bit of disrespect. Obviously, I played quarterback all in college, had a lot of success at the position. And then when I get to the combine, they're going to ask me to do some backpedaling, open up, and flip my hips and stuff like that. So, for me, I took it as a little bit of a shot, and just kind of another thing, just kind of adding fuel to the fire. For me, it's just been that's always been something that even when I was coming from high school to college, a lot of schools recruited me as a safety and not a quarterback. So it's just something that has followed me around for whatever reason. And it seems like no matter what I've done at the quarterback position, people are always going to ask that question. So I just got to keep going and stay focused on what I'm doing.
McSorley pretty much saying he's been asked to play safety a lot during his career, and now Cliff Kingsbury clearly believes in the young man. He's not a rookie by any stretch. He's been in the league for a couple of seasons, mostly with Baltimore. What do you think, like, the opportunity is for Trace McSorley with the Arizona Cardinals? Because they've got one, they've got two, the backup and Colt McCoy pretty much set in stone. What do you think Cliff's looking for from McSorley?
I think it's minimal that he can do to make this team, because I think this team needs the open roster spots at numerous positions: pass rusher, cornerback, receiver. I think he's trying out for other teams. And I think the Cardinals want to be known as a developing franchise for some of these young quarterbacks, that be with Cliff Kingsbury. That's his MO. How many times have we seen McVay and Kyle Shanahan kind of flip these young quarterback prospects? And Andy Reid was the best at it. But I just feel like, gentlemen, you've sunk a lot of money into Colt McCoy to be your backup. You gave him real big backup money for the next 3 seasons. So I don't think that Trace McSorley, even at vet minimum contract, can be anything better than a practice squad player for this franchise. But if he goes out, DA, and lights a couple teams up in the preseason, shows some mobility, he's over 6 foot, right? Played Big Ten football at Penn State. I think he can be valued, but listen, Colt McCoy is a made man in Arizona. After what he did last year, 2-1, 2-0 against divisional opponents on the road, like, that's it. Case closed, and I just don't think they're going to carry 3 quarterbacks.
Hey, guys, a spare tire isn't sexy, right? But you appreciate it when you have it. Am I right? Like, it may not fit all the other rims.
That's Colt, though. Colt's that
But when you put that sumbitch on, you feel good about being able to drive away from where you're at. That being said, as you mentioned, Johnny, with the developmental aspect of it, I think that they're doing Trace a solid, right? They're just giving him an opportunity to demonstrate his skills to all 31 teams. However, obviously there's a plus side. If he, make them love you, some gladiator type shit, right? Like, go out there and win the people over. So if he plays well, they'll have no choice to try and keep him on the squad. It may not be, part of that 53, but damn, I think that they make, 6 figures being on practice squad now. That's good ass money. What it was compared to, when to anybody living in anywhere, you making 6 figures doing something, and may not get your name in the paper, but you're making good money. That's something for him and his family. But I think that knowing where he's coming from, having that chip on his shoulder, people disrespecting him, wanting him to play safety, all those things. Like, I think that Kyler probably likes him as a person because he's been disrespected his whole career and he's had to prove people wrong. Cliff probably sees some similarities in terms of their, toughness and savviness of their game. Obviously, Kyler's a once in a generational talent. But for guys like Trace, obviously I side with them because I want him to go out there and prove everybody wrong. I want him to go out there and, get his arms tanned up a little bit and feel good about playing the game at a high level. You know what I mean? Because they've been inside, you can tell, guys. He needs a little bit of sun. I don't know if he's going to get it in Cincinnati, but I mean, good for him. I think that, like I said, Cliff and staff are doing Trace a solid by just giving him live reps and information to add on to his resume.
I mean, if he can become one of 64, I mean that's including starting and backup quarterbacks. If he can kind of parlay all these reps, all these starter reps that he's getting right now because Kyler and McCoy can't get on the practice field because of different things this week, and then what he's going to be able to get at least in the first half of play against Cincinnati. I mean, the injuries are going to happen in this league, and there might be an opportunity for Trace to go back somebody up or put himself in a position to where, say, McCoy can't get his arm in shape by the start of the season, more of a similar skill set to what your starting quarterback looks like. I know Frank Sanders pounds the table for that. He likes the skill set. You can run more of what offense you run with Kyler in there than you can with Colt. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I see in the chat, by the way, people talking about Hard Knocks, which opened up last night. Aiden Hutchinson's second overall pick. His Billie Jean performance was a hot topic today out of Cardinals camp, something that Cliff Kingsbury called top notch, that performance. But I see a lot of talk about this coaching staff, talk about the physicality in that Lions camp, and it's a complete polar opposite of what we're seeing at Cards camp. I don't think that's a bad thing, guys. I think that the Arizona Cardinals run just a completely different program that's based around veterans and being player friendly, and the idea of going out there and cracking heads, even with a Guardian cap, isn't appealing to any of those players on the roster, where you've got the Lions players who are young, hungry guys that want to prove the NFL wrong. With the Arizona Cardinals, a lot of those guys have proven a lot, and they don't have to do that any longer.
Well, yeah, the difference between Johnny, let me just jump in here real quick. The major difference between Detroit and obviously the Cardinals, one's coming off a playoff year, one barely won football games. It's a culture thing with both of those organizations, right? You have in Detroit, they're trying to reestablish themselves as a football team with a diehard football coach that, from all accounts, would be, on the line of scrimmage if he could be tomorrow, right? Like right now, like that's the feeling that you get. And you just get where with the Cardinals, like they're a Lambo or Ferrari, and they're fine tuning that son of a bitch, like trying to get it right so it can perform at a high level. So I think it's apples to oranges. I think if it's great personality, it's going to be great content. Obviously, people want to see football, as well, right? But it's just getting that immersive look into their lives and personalities. And I think that these kids being a lot younger, I think it's going to be great. I think, how the Cardinals come off is going to be beautiful and be great.
I don't think anybody should be questioning Cliff Kingsbury's training camps, because the Cardinals start the season, I don't know if you guys know this or not, on fire every year. They kick everybody's ass for about 8 to 10 weeks. Then something happens around Thanksgiving, and they go in the shitter completely. So I would say whatever they're doing, Bruce Arians used to run a big physical training camp, and a lot of people got hurt. And I'm not putting that on Bruce. I would rather have the country club training camp where, knock on wood, nobody's seriously injured, nobody's out for the year. Everybody goes through the motions of learning the playbook. And then you come out and you kick ass week one. Look what they did against Tennessee last year. Maybe the most physical team in football, and the Cardinals lit them up for almost 40 points and just completely dominated that game because they were mentally prepared and they were physical enough. And so I don't need to be 1970s old school NFL training camp where guys are gassed and you got bloody noses and broken fingers and broken bones. Like, what the Cardinals do in training camp, you cannot argue works. It's their adjustments midseason and post-bye that needs some tweaking. And that's coaching. I think that's leadership, all the above. We talked about it ad nauseum throughout the offseason, but I don't know. The Cardinals were unbelievable last year in the first half. That comes directly out of training camp. They had a late bye, and they were cruising. Then they had some injuries during the season, but it is a long-ass season. 17 games. The NFL season has never been longer, more of a rigorous process. If I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I'm giving guys ample opportunity. Consume the playbook, consume what we're doing, walkthroughs. We'll be physical when it's necessary. And by the way, they looked good in preseason last year, right? And I think they're going to come out Friday night and be physical with the defending AFC champions, because I think Cardinals stack up with the roster very well. I think Cincinnati and the Cardinals are very comparable in terms of what they do well. But anybody who says like Detroit, that's a great story. And I think Detroit's going to be one of the more fun teams to watch in the NFL. But all right, Bo does not agree with me. I just like a lot of their young talent they've drafted. Jameson Williams should have been an Arizona Cardinal, but we don't need to talk about that. The Lions beat the Cardinals ass win in December. The Lions started the year, they were egregious. Weren't they like 0-10? And the Cardinals were like 10-0. So I would figure out something different, and I'm sure they're working on it. But I asked Cliff Kingsbury this. I'm like, what are you going to do to change up the home environment here? Because you guys were 3-5 at home and you lost 5 straight. Like, those are the kind of things they're doing. But I commend Cliff Kingsbury. I love the training camp he runs. Cliff Kingsbury, undefeated, gentlemen, in week 1's 2-0-1. That only tie being that overtime loss, coincidentally, or the overtime tie against the Detroit Lions. So, bravo, Cliff. Keep doing what you're doing. This training camp may not be fun to watch, but it's effective.
There was a lot of talk about that first episode. We kind of tried to pry a little bit, try to get a glimpse of what we were going to see, because with the first Hard Knocks episode last night was also the Cardinals unveiling kind of their November 9th, debut on Hard Knocks, which is going to be in season, because I think HBO is anticipating, this team that has a lot of flair for the dramatic at the end of the season, that happening again for a third straight time. So we'll see. But there was one little thing that came out of it, that there's already been a little bit of a Hard Knocks moment for this squad. Here were a couple of the players talking about it. A rookie defensive lineman had a pretty spot-on impression.
Manny Jones did an impression of Kyler Murray at his press conference. So I won't get into the details, but y'all can ask them about it.
I'll give him a 7. He came out, he had a couple, like the look he had pretty spot on. And he had kind of a little like a half shuffle jog that Kyler does. He had that pretty good. I think some of his responses could have been a little bit better, could have gotten into the K1 mentality a little bit more, but he did a good job. Yeah, and he committed to it, which for a rookie show, that's all you can ask. The guy commits to it. He was actually laughing about it. He thought it was pretty funny, especially when he first came in the room and he kind of hit that little shuffle. Kyler was laughing pretty good, so he had fun with it.
That was about an A. That was a good one. The way he walked in with his do-rag on in the shades, and the way he answered the questions, that was spot on. But it was fun. But it was K1 was laughing, so that was good. That was positive too.
So Manny Jones with the Kyler Murray impression, getting the QB1 to smile and laugh about it. Damien, do you have any memories from your time at camp? Did you get Did you have to get the rookie treatment? Did you have to do any kind of performance?
I think I can't remember back that far, but I do remember when Denny was our head coach, and a couple of players went in on head coach Denny Green, and they weren't on the roster that much. They weren't on the roster.
That's surprising at all.
Yeah, that much longer after that. But they killed it. I mean, they had the socks and the high top, bro. And it was just amazing. But, yeah, he laughed at the time, but then we noticed as a team they were gone a couple days later. But, no, it's a great time. Everybody comes together, makes fun of one another. The rookies, I call them, thinking freshmen, go out there and just, they pick apart. I mean, the one memorable one, obviously, when everyone's making fun of Shannon Sharp, right, on Hard Knocks back in the day when they're talking about Tony Saragusa. But I hope the world gets to see this, and it's as funny as they say it is.
Yeah, we'll see if there's leaked footage of this. I don't know if that's something
Tyler's
that's
not letting any more leaks get out, Bo Brock. After the
he's already destroyed.
Leak, tighten shit up, man.
He went Tom Brady. He destroyed all phones.
Hey, there's not breaking news. I don't know how we missed this. Field Yates, Bo. I don't know if you saw this or not. The Cardinals had a workout with 2 veteran players. That's the ultimate tease. We're going to get to that in a second, but I want to remind everybody COVID-19 vaccines are free for everybody 5 and older. We're having so much good stuff here. I got word by the GM Saul Bookman this morning. We're going to have something special planned every home game that you guys want to come and check out. But recommend get your COVID-19 vaccine so you can party with us happy and healthy. Those 12 and older are also eligible for a booster. Visit azhealth.gov/find-vaccine for a location nearest to you.
And also OGs, our friends over at OGs, more free stuff we're giving away today. You can get in the Flavoring Life sweepstakes. Easiest way to do that, just go to PHNX.com. Go PHNX.com. Enter to win. You can find, of course, in the show notes, the link for that. You can win yourself 3. Yes, that's right. 3 bags of OGs just gummies. You can get that orange creamsicle. You get any of their tropical flavors. You get that OG's. You got a PHNX shirt or hat of your choice and a PHNX annual membership. Sign up, go PHNX.com, click the link. Check out OG's online at ogsbrands.com. That's ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. You must be 21 years or older to purchase. You can also find their products in your local dispensary. Yeah, I'm seeing this Field Yates thing, and it's interesting, Johnny.
Tasty. We've been waiting for a tasty nugget like this. This makes a lot of sense. The Cardinals, per Field Yates of ESPN, worked out former New York Giant, Kansas City Chief cornerback DeAndre Baker, who was a first-round pick, got in trouble at a barbecue once upon a time, was cut. I think it's interesting. He was with Kansas City. Bring him in, see what he knows. And then to a lesser extent, Jeremiah Atachu, who was a second-round pick out of Georgia Tech once upon a time. Baker is, to me, gentlemen, the name that stands out. Former first-round pick, only 24 years old, went to Georgia, comes from Miami, almost 6 foot, has a ton of physical traits. Quick reaction, DA. Would you be pro DeAndre Baker joining the Arizona Cardinals secondary?
I mean, I think as you mentioned, Johnny, the traits, you said former first round, right?
Out of Georgia.
Yeah, former first round kid being, I mean, to me, but there's a big, why, right? I think initially that you're like, yeah, hell yeah, former first round draft pick. He has all the traits, going to inject some competition into the position. But to me, it's like, why is he available? You know what I mean? He's not that old. What happened? I mean, but guys, I guess, can, get drafted at 19, 20, nowadays. So I guess it is doable. But I mean, I think that per the needs that we've seen on the secondary, why not? Absolutely. For sure. Adds depth and brings competition and gives some guys a little bit of breathing, room. The guys that have solidified the position, right? And it makes the other guys compete. For sure. Yes.
He was with Quincy Dunbar in that alleged incident. Is that right, Johnny? Was that the situation that took Baker off the Giants?
Yeah, Dunbar was with the Seahawks at the time, and Baker got the worst of it. But I mean, he did have a 67 PFF grade in 2020. Last year's PFF grade.
There you go.
60. Listen, we saw from this team in the offseason.
If he allegedly assaulted some people at a barbecue, if he had a 67 PFF rating, just sign him up. Let's go.
Allegedly, guys.
What was the Cardinals' first move of the offseason external signing? Can anybody remind me?
Right,
of that?
I do remember the late Jeff Gladney, who had some obviously some issues in his past as well. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, domestic abuse. They gave him a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about the morality police. This isn't Deshaun Watson.
Right.
DeAndre Baker has been with another club, so we're the middleman here. We don't have to carry the brunt of being that next team.
We're here for second chances, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a coup. He's just with Kansas City.
I mean, shit, we gave Johnny a second chance.
Speaking of making moves, we had our GM in the
I'm
studio.
not that at all.
Salt Bookman.
I'm gonna give Damien a second chance to make his bed back there. I'll tell you that.
Damn, TMZ. Why you love me like that, son?
I missed y'all, man. I was like, I need to pop in and listen to this stuff. Also, I've been to some barbecues that have been a little physical from time to time. You don't make them ribs right. You know what I mean? Like,
you get it. If the Kool-Aid's off or there's no shade, there might be a problem at the barbecue.
Temperatures get a little hot. Hey, don't talk to me like that now.
Exactly. I don't know who you talking to.
Good to see you guys, man.
I see first round pick. I see physical traits. I see SEC Georgia. Sign me up for this secondary. This is not the Cardinals receiving core who has just an embarrassment of riches or the running back group or whatever.
To a barbecue?
What?
Would you invite him to a barbecue?
No, he's not coming to babysit my kids. I need him to tee up some NFL receivers. Let's throw him out there on Sundays. I want physical traits. Antonio Hamilton's great. He is undersized. Give me NFL physical traits, and I will try to ingratiate him, get him around J.J. Watt in our culture.
You don't want to go to Johnny's barbecue anyway. He puts raisins in his potato salad.
Oh God, I knew that was coming for sure. Maricopa barbecues are lit. You guys haven't seen anything since.
Nobody's ever seen him, man. Shut up.
No one even goes out there, bro.
This podcast has gone completely off the rails. DeAndre Baker, Bo, we know it was a tryout, workout. I think there's a good chance they sign him because what the hell else are you going to do? And then you got 2 preseason games then if you bring him on, not including this Friday, to just see what happens. And you know what?
You got to get some competition in that room. I know it just fits, Steve Keim, what he likes to do. He just goes and kicks the tires on some guys, former first-round picks. He's been doing it for a long time, and it's low risk, Damien.
But guys, do they pull that trigger given the recent news with the running back coach? And they can't have too many players or coaches putting hands on people.
Jalen in the chat says it turned out Baker was actually being blackmailed, and that's how the charges got dropped. I'll defer to Jalen here. Thank you, Jalen. So he's fine. Everything's fine. Jalen. Everything's fine. Yeah. Tell Keim that everything's good to go. He goes to church now on Sundays. He does community service. We're fine.
Right. Hopefully they've done their research, and like I said, I don't think it hurts in any way. I think Cardinals fan base gets it, and they want to be shit. They want to be the best, man.
Would you rather have a team that's 5-12, but everybody, choir boys? What's the famous saying? I want to make the playoffs. Damn it! I want a division title. Let's get some dogs in here. What's that famous saying? I'm butchering it, of course, but you need some dogs in the room. DeAndre Baker. I've watched DeAndre Baker before. I don't watch a ton of Giants film. He's an NFL caliber corner. Maybe not a starter, but somebody that can help you. Bo, don't give me that face.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't crack the Chiefs roster. Their starting lineup last year that often.
Well, you know why they didn't keep him? Because Trent McDuffie out of Washington's having a phenomenal training camp. He's D'ing up McCoy Hardman. They've got corners now. You know who doesn't have corners? Arizona Cardinals. They need some corners.
But everybody knowing what the game is, Johnny, right? And seeing and having a great opportunity to go against a guy like Patrick Mahomes and knowing that you play in the AFC West. And think about what you play in the AFC West. I'm like, nah, he doesn't fit the bill. Don't get me wrong. I'm proud of the Cardinals for doing their due diligence, but to me, that's like kind of a big ass asterisk. Like, let me read what this means down here. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does this mean? Because there's a reason why, knowing what they're going to face, knowing the premium that people put on the cornerback position in terms of the NFL personnel, why wouldn't he be on that football team?
I mean, we combed through trade candidates all yesterday, Johnny. We couldn't find anybody. No. If you're any team that has any expectations, you're not going to want to part with a guy who can play cornerback at the NFL level. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting, unique way to find yourself a starter to play opposite Byron Murphy, Marco Wilson. But yeah, I mean, it's low risk. If the worst case, he gets cut by the start of the regular season.
He had a 40 grade. Opposing quarterbacks had a 40 grade against him at Georgia. He was unbelievable at Georgia.
Johnny,
everybody's unbelievable.
That was a long time ago.
How long ago was that?
All right. First of all, let's talk about the fact the Cardinals had a potential star corner on their roster last year, and they cut him, and he went to Green Bay, and he had like 8 to 10 interceptions and made the Pro Bowl. Right? Teams can make mistakes on corners, and they can undervalue or overvalue somebody, and a lot of it depends, this DA, on the system that you run, right? Somebody's not a great
opportunities for sure.
Let's give DeAndre an opportunity. Give us an opportunity at PHNX Cardinals on Twitter. Go PHNX on the old internets. You can check out Bo's training camp report today. It is good stuff. Only exclusive to GoPHNX.com. You can check out the PHNX merchandise locker. Cop one of these hats. Become a member. 99 cents for the first month, $8.99 for the subsequent months. Give this video a like. Gentlemen, as we segue to our last segment here, preseason predictions at Cincinnati. Bo Brock, I'll start with you. Give me a prediction. What are we going to see? Doesn't have to be a score. Good hell, it better not be. But just a position group or somebody that shines, that does well for the Cardinals. Who is it?
I'm going to say the pass rush. We're going to see a lot of guys get some opportunities to get after the quarterback. Outside of that starting offensive line for the Bengals, we know that there's not a lot of talent on that roster, so there's going to be some lanes for these pass rushers to make an impression on Vance Joseph and get the leg up for the regular season. That's what I'm looking for Friday night. And then, of course, the wide receivers, outside of the top 4, Greg Dortch, Andy Isabella, Victor Bolden Jr., all those guys are exciting. D.A., I kind of have an idea of what you're looking forward to Friday night.
You think?
Showing your hand.
Yeah, but the reason why people should watch, they should, as you mentioned, Bo, that young talent, Dortch, Bolden at receiver, Andy Isabella fighting for that roster spot. Is he fighting? We don't know. Will he be traded? We don't know. Young talent and running back Keontae Ingram, he's going to look to try and solidify his spot to be on this football team. And then on the defensive side, as you talked about, those young rookies at defensive end, Thomas and Sanders. I'm anxious to see what they do. Gardick coming back off injury, but also, and I'm keep beating this drum. I think that Dogby looked like he's been in the weight room, and is it Fafita? Fotu. Yeah. Like, to me, he really, like, the eye test, he definitely passed it when we were able to see him at practice. So I'm anxious to see if he plays any like what he does in terms of the impression that he makes.
I want to see Mozzie Sanders whoop on some third-string offensive tackles. We know Cincinnati's offensive line, they tried to remake it in the offseason. A bunch of guys aren't playing. I want to see Mozzie Sanders turn the corner and light somebody up. But I will put a guarantee on this, gentlemen. Andy Isabella is going to have a touchdown Friday night. I will stamp it. Johnny Venerable guarantee Isabella 17 will get into the end zone Friday night. Arizona Cardinals a
What's the bet?
+2. Well, let's put a bet. You have to give me odds here.
You were said it confidently, like, so it's going to happen.
But I mean, there's a greater chance if this is on DraftKings, which it's not.
There's a greater chance, Johnny. There's a greater chance of you playing in the NFL than Andy Isabella scoring a touchdown and making this team for sure.
Both things are going to happen. Both things are going to happen.
How about so the post game show? You just have to shotgun a beer. How about that?
Well, our post game show, are we going live or are we going halftime post game?
We'll grab it. We'll make sure people see.
Either way, you can drink. You can smash a beer. Right?
I think Andy's going to get in the end zone. Trace, don't let me down. We will.
To be honest, nobody wants to watch Johnny chuck a beer anymore.
That's fair.
That ship has sailed, and it hit an iceberg, and it fucking sunk to the bottom of the goddamn Cardinals team, man. There's just
it's the Titanic of beer chugging
anymore. Like, let's just move on past it. It's 2022, 23 now. It's time to let that thing just fucking go.
Can I just drink a White Claw on ice, please, or 4 Peaks, please? Let's do that. I want to remind everybody this show is sponsored by the DraftKings Sportsbook app. The Cardinals are +2 underdog at Cincinnati. You heard it from Bo. Bo and I are going to be live Friday night, halftime show after the first 2 corners. Come check it out. Air your grievances. Let's talk up Andy Isabella, and then we will have an audio-only pod that's dropping on Saturday, a recap of the game. PHNX, like no one else, has you covered for Arizona Cardinal content. For Bo Brock, Damien Anderson, I'm Johnny Venerable. Like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. Like this YouTube video. We will keep this train rolling. First, Arizona Cardinal football against live opponents this Friday. Do not miss it. See you then.